What is going on?
What is going on?
Hey, look who's back. We got the band back together.
Back. We are back.
Let's go, man. How's it going?
Good. Again, I hope everybody was, bared with me. I did as much as I could as far as getting sheets up there. NBA is obviously impossible.
Yeah.
But hopefully people did okay during the last several days. I was keeping track somewhat with just the overall sentiment, what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
Happy to be back. For those of you that missed it yesterday, I came back and just fired some freaking showdown PGA stuff.
That was awesome.
And one of them, I think it was that second place or so, third place, something like that for 5,000.
Yeah.
And I gave the Stakings people a chance. They bought like 3% of it. Can I tell you? It's a weird vibe. It's a weird vibe with that because like I get so you want to be on everybody's side, you want to be on everybody's team, but then you get like a little insulted, and I'm like, and I feel like kind of this weird thing. I'm so glad that only 3% freaking people bought this thing.
No, I hear you, man. I understand. It definitely
you're not supposed to feel that way, but
No. I mean, it's just I always hope people get it, but at the same time, like It just sometimes it's timing and whatever. I don't know.
Whatever.
What's going on, man? We have finally us back together here.
Yeah, we have three slates left. No, 1, 2, 3, 4 slates left. We have the classic. We have 2 showdowns and 1 more showdown for the Super Bowl. So we got a couple of more chances to make it happen.
Yeah.
And there's one other bit of news. So I really thought about coming out of retirement and playing this Venom tournament on ACR.
Yeah.
It's a $2,500 buy. It's a 10 million guarantee or something like that.
And today?
Well, there's like 100-day ones. You know what I mean? You could.
Oh yeah, those things are so weird. Yeah.
It's one of the days you could play, and then I'm like, you know what? I'm really thinking of doing it. And I would sell it on Stakings just for fun, generate interest. I even put Bitcoin in the account. And then I'm looking, I'm like, there's just no way I'm going to be able to play all these days, right? And then I looked and I saw when the final 2 days were, and I'm not going to be in town. So I'm not going to be able to do it. So I thought about it, though. And that's like usually more than I will do with the poker stuff. So who knows? You never know, guys. One of these days, I'm gonna put a poker.
I hope it doesn't take the same thing it took us last time to get you to play again, because we started playing during the pandemic.
Yeah, hopefully not. That's for sure.
I was actually. I'm sort of wondering why I stopped playing. I left. In a month and a half, I profited like 68,000 or something.
Did you really? Oh, that's right. I remember that.
And I was after like a 50K downswing at the end.
I remember that.
A couple of really bad last final table beats. I had a couple shots at a couple 100,000 a couple times.
And then what's the thing? Trash bag your poker, then you ended up like winning all the money.
I know. I was better at poker. What the hell? Rohde, how are you doing, man? How's the things in Michigan?
Good. Snowy and cold. But yeah, we're doing well.
Yeah.
I had one other thing to announce again, and we'll get into this more this coming week. One other bit of good news, which I thought would happen, is they did scrap the MMA late swap, which I was expecting they would do. I mean, it was just like too much of a shit show. So starting with this next card, we're going to be back to the way it was. And also, this is more news. So. As you know, I mean, I've gotten very little, if anything, from DraftKings, like ever, as far as like rewards and stuff, and tickets and stuff. And there was actually at one point, like last year, where the host came in and said, if I could do anything for you. I'm like, what do you mean you've done nothing? And you know what I mean? Like, what do you mean? He's like, well, you've ignored like all my texts for the last 3 years offering you stuff. And I'm like, I have not ignored anything. What are you talking about? It seems as though they had been texting to my landline. Like, years, like asking me for whatever it is. I'm like, you wouldn't have thought, like, you thought I was just ignoring you, like free stuff. I mean, honestly. So I don't know if that was true, whatever. So they had this new thing, this Onyx rewards thing that people got over the last couple of whatever. So I went and I checked and see all these cool things that I could get. Yeah. And I made the mistake of reading through all the options when Stacy was with me. So.
What are you doing?
You go to Pebble Beach. I could go this for golf.
You have multiple, so you have more credits than Rohde and I do, because me and Rohde talked about this. We each only have 2 credits.
I had 2 credits.
Yeah, we can combine sheets if you want me and you to go to the Super Bowl, or you can take Bobby.
It's already been decided. We're getting the luggage.
The luggage. That's what it was. The decision. The luggage.
Get the Toomey luggage. The Toomey luggage. She says we need that. I'm like, oh, all right, Toomey luggage. So there you go. That's it.
There you go. Well, next year we'll figure out something. Maybe we can figure something way to combine all of our efforts here.
Yeah.
But let's start with winning $1 million today. And how are we going to?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, so like, look, this slate is you have an endless stream of just everything's going to be chalk. We know how these 2 gamers work. It's the guys who we can get different with that are appealing to me, and they're not going to be in all my lineups. I'm going to have some typical builds, but leaving like over 1,000 on the table. I think that's a really smart way to go, is to leave money on the table to differentiate yourself. And you can pretty much do most of what you want, and the pricing isn't quite right for like the guys who are 3K based on everybody else's price. They should be like 1K. You know what I mean? But you're going to have to play some of these uncomfortable things if you want to have a chance to win today, I think. And I think that's we'll go through our favorite plays, but I'd actually like to start with some of the get different plays, and we can go game by game, or we could talk about it just overall. But who are we looking at? I mean, for me, that was the first thing. I was like, what are the guys that get different with? My main ones I have, and even some of these guys might be owned a little bit, but P. Ryan, Jennings, Watkins, and Noah Gray are my favorite get different plays. I'll just start right off with that. And then Sheets, why don't you take it, and then we'll start talking about some of our favorite plays. The guys.
How about this? Let's go backwards for a second. Who do you like?
In the games, I've been on the whole time. I've been on on Cincinnati. This week, I did pick the Chiefs to go to the to lose to Baltimore, whatever. I'm starting to think that maybe we're over. I don't know. I'm starting to think maybe I'm very 50-50 on that game. I do like Philly in this game just because I think more often than not, I feel like they could win in a blowout, and that would be possible. It's really hard for me to see San Francisco just completely controlling the game on the road in Philly with the rookie quarterback. However, he moves it just well enough with that kind of skill around him that I don't know. It's really close. I usually have stronger takes, but right now I've got Philly and I've got KC, but it's really, really close for me. How about you? And then how about Rohde?
Yeah. So first of all, the Bengals are just like the super duper wise guy, uber sharp. If you don't pick them, you don't know anything about sports picks. So I don't like to play stuff like that.
Right.
It reminds me of the Super Bowl when the entire civilized world was on San Francisco against Kansas City. And Mr. Bobby Firestone, I don't know what any of you guys are talking about. And you were I think you were the only person that played DFS to get the Super Bowl right.
That one, I think so.
Yeah. I kind of feel this way about the Bengals game. I kind of feel as though the Bengals are the super sharp play that's just going to lose. And at the end of the day, you know what I mean? You say all you want about this, that, and the other thing, and whatever. You have Patrick Mahomes and Kansas City at home minus no points. So I think I'm going to be the sucker and take and support the Chiefs against the spread in this game. In the Philadelphia game, so, you have 2 kind of sharp teams. You know what I mean? People have been on Philly, you know what I mean? For most of the year, and people have been on San Francisco. So I don't see much of an edge over there. So what I think I'm going to pick there is I'm just going to pick the over in that game.
Ooh, okay.
So I'm going to go officially with Kansas City in the first game and the over in the second game. What do you like in the games, Mr. Rohde?
Well, I'm always a big Chiefs fan. I do like to hurt the Eagles a little bit, so I'm on the side of not doing the Bengals and the 49ers, which everyone likes. But I think these are both going to be really good games. I think it's going to be tough. I got the over. I do have the over in the Chiefs game. I'm not worried about Mahomes' injury. We just had some big news come in. Elijah Mitchell is unlikely to play, officially inactive now, I guess. So.
Yep.
That could boost CMC to everything, or could give one of these random guys or use check a little bit of goal line carry or something. Just throwing that out there. I really like. I think DraftKings really made it cheap to get a lot of these guys in. I mean, everyone's prices are very reasonable today, and I think some of these like San Francisco, I really like Debo and McCaffrey. I think they get all the work, and then Kittle, they get all the work, you know. So like I know you guys want to play like Jennings and some of these like lower owned guys, but like if you can just get your roster construction different with like playing like 3 of them and no Purdy or something, and then Hurts and Goddard or something, you know, you can get Debo, Kiddo, and CMC. They get all the work, all the touches, and then Hurts maybe rushes a couple touchdowns and Goddard catches 2. You know, just getting different with like last week I got 10th in the Millie Maker, and I had 3 guys, ETN, Zay Jones, and Kirk in that lineup, and I didn't have Trevor Lawrence.
Right,
you know?
right.
And he was the lowest scoring quarterback.
A naked Hurts.
Yeah. So naked Hurts. And Hurts, for what it's worth, Mahomes even spreads the ball around a lot, and we're worried about, you know, he's coming in a decently low owned today, lower owned than, you know, Hurts and Burrow. So you can get him at like he's showing up around 20%, which is lower. Like even that guy, we just don't know who he's going to throw. He's got Tony, you know, Hardman could be back today. We got Kelsey, which gets all the work. Like Mahomes to Kelsey is probably the best stack because, you know, after Mahomes got hurt last week, he was just dumping it off to Kelsey all game. Kelsey just caught
and everybody was talking, like, you know, just on that note, like everybody talked all week, like they're like, oh, Kelsey is amazing with the yards after catch. I'm like, this guy had his first 11 catches for 60 yards. Like it wasn't like these were big plays. These were little dump offs for 2 to 3 yards at a time.
Yeah.
You know?
So I don't know what's going on with Kelsey for the injuries, questionable. He's going to play obviously, and Burrow or Mahomes is going to play. But if they're you know banged up a little bit or Mahomes' movement's a little bad, I think the dump offs could be a little bit more today, and they could be dialing up Tony a little bit too on some end around jet sweeps or some dump offs in there. Hardman could be that guy too, you know. So, you know, check for that. So that's kind of, I'm doing a lot of roster construction changes and just keeping the main guys. Which I do like Jennings and some of those loan pieces that you talked about. Even go back to Gainwell this week if you know the Eagles are behind. If you think the 49ers lead, you can get the dump offs to Gainwell. Maybe he's in there more than Sanders or something.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what I'm doing this week.
When did the Mitchell news come out?
Just came out.
Just like right before the show.
Okay.
Less than 5 minutes.
I'm gonna obviously update projections, you know, after we get out of here, probably in about a half an hour or whatever it is. Yeah. But that's obviously a huge deal. I was actually getting like a full 15% Mitchell across the board. And you know that what that does is that increases a couple of things. It increases McCaffrey, and it increases Samuel. Right? I mean, it's just more. Yep. More possible running plays, I suppose, for Samuel. And I would like to think that San Francisco kind of probably knew all week, right? that Mitchell was.
I think they were really trying to let him give it a go. I really.
So what's interesting about that then is that I was going to say that if they knew all week that they would have, you know, deliberately scripted stuff over the course of the week. But if you think that this is like new, maybe there's not that much of a bump for stuff like Samuel. I think use check now, in a weird way, like in Showdown, is actually might be over-owned because of this.
I agree with you. He's always over-owned. This is a guy we completely created out of the figment of our imaginations. Like,
but now he might actually get like 10% ownership. You know what I mean?
In the Showdown, you're saying?
Yeah, in the Showdown. So I think that's actually a pretty good fade over there. What I was gonna say again, like I was just unprepared to talk about this without Mitchell. But there were guys that I was getting to more on FanDuel, but there are guys I'm getting to. Like I was playing the normal. I mean, like Tony, I suppose. Perrine, you mentioned. I was getting some like. Again, it's a 2-game slate, you know, so you gotta like be have a little bit of a vision here, you know. So even some Quez Watkins, that made a little sense. Some Justin Watkins and Sky Moore, like all these like kind of like 3K shuffles. I think the 3K shuffles are gonna probably make more sense now, actually, with McCaffrey being a little more secure. Secure, you know how it is.
Yeah, you're right.
And I am going back, by the way, to the Trenton Irwin. He gets some targets, you know, even with all these guys back. So if you're looking for guys that are just kind of off the beaten path, I guess those are the guys. But with respect to like overall construction, I did want to just mention something. You guys are probably playing more of the higher buy-ins than I am. Again, I'm doing the same thing I do every week. I'm just playing the MMEs. I'm not really playing anything bigger. I'm just playing the MMEs. So this is like specifically MMEs. In MMEs, I'm not playing more than 3 receivers from a team. Like I'm not creating any constructions where I have 4 receivers. Just because I just don't feel like it. I mean, you'll come up with them. I mean, you use SaberSim, you'll come up.
I have no problem with using 4 today personally, but
I know that's what I'm saying. So I'm not doing. I'm gonna actually on this day I'm gonna limit it to 3 receivers. That's just what I'm doing. As far as positions, I think that obviously Kelsey's the best tight end, but Hayden Hurst has been. I mean, he's been excellent, and Kittle's excellent. I think you're probably going to agree with this, Bobby, that double tight end is going to be, very, very, very recommended. You know what I mean? Like all these tight ends are really good. Between Goddard and Kittle and Hurst and Kelsey. I mean, those are legit. So double tight end could be very, very helpful today.
I agree with you about the double tight end, and I will on some of my Chiefs play Kelsey and Noah Gray. Like those would be my double tight ends.
That's pretty cool.
I also will do Hayden Hurst with Noah Gray. I'm only going to end up with like 10 to 15% of Noah Gray, but it'll all be double tight end lineups because I like these tight ends. And I think it's just interesting to note, like in the playoffs, you do tend to see a lot more usage from your tight ends because it is often the bailout for the quarterback. The same way you tend to see more dump offs from quarterbacks that don't always dump the ball off. Just in general in the postseason, this is just a good rule of thumb. I mean, look at Hayden Hurst lately. It's just in general, if everybody's going to stop what you've been doing all year, you're going to end up dumping it off a lot more, and they also end up blitzing more and all that stuff. What I'm finding is, and I'll just go by positions here. Like the quarterbacks, I love Hurts as much as anybody else does, and I think he's the most of the time the right play here. I actually am finding myself with more, just because of ownership, more Burrow and Purdy. Burrow might be my highest owned guy, and he's pretty popular, obviously, but I sort of side with him a little bit over Mahomes. And I like the idea of playing Purdy because the weapons are there. And even if they're down or trailing, it's not like they have a plan B option. He's cheaper and it allows you to differentiate your build. And he's going to be significantly lower owned than everybody else. And it's really easy to stack him with 2 guys and then just play anybody else you want. I would stack Debo and Kittle as the number 1 and 2, but I wouldn't leave out. I mean, obviously I'd have a lot of Ayuk as well, and I wouldn't leave out Jennings. So I kind of like the way that sort of builds out for me. If I am playing Mahomes, I'm sort of tempted to play him with 4 receivers and take some of these 3K shots. The one thing to keep in mind about the Sky Moore and the Watson is that if McCole Hardman is back today, those guys are become even less relevant. Probably not Kadarius Toney, but those 2 guys specifically become a little less relevant than they would be otherwise. Although with the Chiefs, it's hard to know because Mahomes might complete his first 10 passes to different receivers, not named Kelsey. And by the way, for what it's worth, as much as I like Kelsey, if this was a main slate or if this was a big, like we had multiple games, there is no way Cincinnati is going to let them do what Jacksonville did last week. They are going to make sure to cover up Kelsey, and they will get after Mahomes a lot faster. So you're going to see a lot of quick pitch outs, and which is going to bring me to running back. I'm going to end up with a ton of McKinnon today because of that. Anyway, that's just sort of my quarterback stuff. Rohde, do you want to take a crack at what quarterbacks you're playing, like over or underweight on the field? Then Sheets do the same.
Yeah, I'm probably going to have majority Mahomes and Hurts probably. I haven't been on Burrow. Burrow's burned me all year or helped me. Like I haven't been on too much Burrow. I play a little bit of Burrow, but I'm not gonna have that much Burrow. So I like Mixon a lot today again. So kind of going in P Ryan. I like the running back combo.
I don't know. I think I haven't built yet without McCaffrey, without Mitchell in, but I think my first build, like if nothing had changed, I was actually getting 80% like Jamar Chase and going with the Burrow thing. That was gonna be one of us is gonna win thing. I really think that Cincinnati I think they're gonna sling the ball around. And they have incredible. I don't know. They have between Chase and Higgins and Burrow throwing it to them. I think this is show out time, man. I don't know. I like your idea, by the way, Bobby, in general, of just playing Purdy. I mean, there's four freaking quarterbacks on the board, and one of them's going to be 10% owned, right?
He's the cheapest.
And not only that, but I mean, all the guy does is everything. You know what I mean? Like, he's been great. And he's got between McCaffrey, Samuel, and Ayuk, and Kittle. I mean, who's to say that isn't the best receiving core of the whole bunch? I mean, I don't know.
I just made one with Purdy, so let's hope for the best.
Yeah, there we go. Let's get the Purdy thing going.
Who's to say that overall depth? I mean, that might be the Eagles are tough, dude, but I mean, I just think, based on ownership, like you were saying, I mean, I don't see any reason not to play Purdy, if you want to know the truth.
Yeah, and I was talking to Eric Johnson in chat, talking about backup quarterbacks. To me, if you're using a backup quarterback, you're just throw away money.
At this point, Eric, he's just being a pain.
You need like a broken leg. No, he's not. He really is thinking about doing this. And by the way, the stuff on Mahomes is way over exaggerated. He's fine. He's definitely banged up. He's fine. He can play with it. He's walking fine. There's no limp. There's no nothing. This is way over dramatized, in my opinion. It was a serious thing at the moment. It looked serious. I think he's completely fine. That's my personal take. And by the way, even if you play a backup, so you're going to play Chad Henne at 300 less than Brock Purdy, who's actually starting the game.
Listen, okay.
It would be psychotic to play a backup quarterback.
Listen. Here's another thing. All right. Now, I know that a lot of, Mahomes is like kind of highlight reel plays where, like, going in motion and throwing it with the left hand underneath the legs and whatever it is. But the guy's a freaking incredible passer. You know what I mean? Like, and I go back to when Brett Favre, you were like, listen, you know all about this, right, Rohde? Like, when Brett Favre was like, even not towards the end of his career, but getting there, like, he would even say that when he was like hurt, like, he actually played better. You know what I mean? Like, he would, because he knew he couldn't knew he couldn't scramble and go crazy. He would stand there a little longer, survey the field, and just sling the freaking ball around. So I'm not the slightest bit interested in saying something like Mahomes is a bad play. You know what I mean? I think he can stand back. And remember, the offensive line, they have a lot of freaking pride, and if they know that they're going to protect, they'll do a good enough job. And listen, he's not the best quarterback in football just because he throws the ball under his legs, going left to right, whatever. Right. The guy can throw the freaking football.
Yeah, who cares if the ankle? Everybody keeps like Triple J saying ankle sprains don't just heal in a week. So what? He played last week in the second half of the game. Like, it's not like he didn't. It's not like this guy was eliminated from the whole game.
Before he got all the freaking juice in him, which he sure probably has right now. Like, whatever.
But yeah. So all right. I mean, I guess Rohde, do you have anything else to add for quarterbacks that you're over or underweight?
But I like the Brett Favre take, because I mean, I watched that guy get hit after hit. Back in the day, he was just getting beat up. He's got his ankles bleeding, and he's chucking down bombs down the field, hitting guys in the sideline for touchdowns. So. Yeah. I wouldn't worry about Mahomes, especially when he got hurt. Like Bobby said, came back in, played through the injury, and he's had a whole week with the specialists and everybody this week. It's going to be shot up. It's going to be everything that they really put a lot of work into recovery. And he's a younger. I mean, he's not young, but I mean, he's young, and they heal quick, and I mean, he'll have all the best treatment. So I think he'll be fine.
Yeah. All right. So let's just jump over to running backs, because this is, a place we can get a little different. Oddly enough, like the running McCaffrey is I mean, obviously McCaffrey Mixon is the chalk combo, and I think McKinnon is the next one. I think that Sanders, I most frustrating guy to roster in DFS.
Yeah,
and then I don't know. So I guess my biggest stance is that I'm going to try to make sure I'm overweight Pacheco, P. Ryan. The problem with Gainwell and Boston Scott versus a normal week is you're not really getting a discount from actual running backs. So if you're going to play Boston Scott or Gainwell, I think, well, like Rohde said, you can have the game script. That's a possibility. Coming back down multiple scores, maybe Gainwell's in there instead of Sanders. But I think the better way to play it is to try to get, like, if you're going to play Gainwell, then play him like with, McKinnon or with Sanders or something like that, because I don't see how those guys outscore the other guys that are real running backs often enough. That's the only thing I'm struggling, unless they luck and do the touchdown. Even last week, we acted like Gainwell had a big week. He had one play. He had one play. One play was what gave Gainwell a good week last week. And maybe you get that one play this week, but I just don't think like McKinnon, Sanders, Pacheco, and P. Ryan are all going to do nothing. I just don't think that's going to happen. So I'm going to be overweight on those other guys, and I if I'm not using tight ends in the flex, I might use running backs in the flex, because I feel like people are so locked in just to those three, that to the McKinnon, Mixon, McCaffrey, to some extent Sanders, that I think Pacheco and P. Ryan are the two that I'm going to probably have to be the most overweight on, because I don't really want to fade McCaffrey and Mixon very much. How are you treating running back, Rohde? And then we'll jump over to Sheets.
Yeah, I mean, I think CMC is just such a good play today. I've pretty much been locking this guy in lately, and last week he didn't really get there. A couple lineups I didn't have him in, but I think he's going to get a lot of dump offs. He's going to be really needed in this game today. Mixon got there, with a touchdown late. He almost had another one. I like them. I just like a lot of the main guys. Like, I don't think I'm going to stretch to these Scotts and these other guys, even use check a little bit. I might have a couple, but not get a ton of them. I think CMC's the guy. Mixon's the guy. I do have a couple Pacheco, McKinnon lineups. Maybe they go to both those guys and get some work more today. I like them. And maybe a couple Gainwell. But besides that, I have 0 Scott. I don't have any Sanders right now. And just, I don't know. I like the Hurts passing tag today. So if they're behind, I think they're going to chuck it. So
yeah. I think that
I
think the better play than the Boston Scotts and the Gainwells or whatever it is. I mean, it's the most direct thing is the name we haven't brought up yet because we weren't ready for it is Jordan Mason, right? So he's going to be the second running back, I think, for San Francisco in those. Listen, because McCaffrey does not play every snap. You know what I mean? He's still a little banged up, and he just doesn't play every snap. And I think that Jordan Mason is probably just as good of a play as those other backup running backs from Philly.
Ahead of including P. Ryan?
No, I'm talking about the Philly guys. The Philly guys.
I got you.
Yeah.
But can I throw one thing about that? Why isn't it that Tevin Coleman?
Well, that was the other thing I was gonna ask about. I've seen Mason a little bit this year. So maybe you're right. Maybe neither of them are good plays.
I mean, Shanahan should have won a title with
remember that whole thing.
Tevin Coleman was going to be the MVP of that game too, by the way. He had an absolutely incredible game, and he was going to be the MVP if Brady didn't lead the Patriots back. But I mean, I'm not going to get all sentimental. That guy hasn't played since week 9. So they do have use check. And the truth is, their actual other running back is Deebo Samuel. Let's not forget about that. So that's why, to me, it is different. But the problem is, and even in Philly's other running back is Jalen Hurts. You know what I mean? It's really, then there's Boston Scott and Kenneth Gainwell. So I would be much more inclined, if I'm going to use like a 2 running back things, I want it from the quarterbacks that are going to be, that they're not going to be like the option to run. So I want the running backs in Cincinnati and KC, obviously, but that's just the way that I'm siding with it. But it does feel weird. I think Pacheco gets left out a little bit, maybe too much today, and that guy could break some plays. Cincinnati's tough, but they're going to be geared up to stop the pass. I think you're going to see some big Pacheco plays. All right, let's talk about wide receivers, guys. Sheets, I'll start with you. I'm curious how to get, everybody's ownership seems pretty much where I would have expected. I sort of thought there was a chance AJ Brown and Devontae might be a little lower owned, but it's just not happening. So really the only guys you're getting at low ownership are MVS, Quez Watkins, Juwan Jennings, Justin Watson, and then McCole Hardman if he plays. Everybody else is really highly owned. So how are you set? Like, who are you overweight on? Who are you okay to try to take a fade on more? Like, what percentages are you kind of coming up with some of these guys?
Well, as I mentioned, I mean, I right now was getting pretty much all of Jamar Chase. He was just going to be he was going to be my top owned guy, and now I'm gonna rerun it now with what's his name out, and see if that makes any bit of a difference. So you can come back to me on that one, but based on like if presumed Mitchell was in, and I'll be curious to see how this changes. I was going to get actually, yeah, I was actually going to get quite a bit of Chase. And then receivers, my next guy was going to be actually, looks like Schuster, maybe? No, A.J. Brown was next. Yeah, so it was going to be Chase, then like 50% A.J. Brown. Then Ayuk was going to be my next, actually. Oh, he's so cheap. Wow.
I know. He's so cheap.
He's so cheap and he'll be popular. And I love Ayuk in general. You guys know this about me. Like I feel like I've been talking about him for 2 years. That this guy's going to be a stud. He just hasn't had a quarterback to throw him the ball until now. And even now, it's a 7th round. It's Mr. Irrelevant from the draft. But I don't know. I'm having a little bit of a hard time with the wide receiver because everybody's popular in a way that I don't know. I just can't quite seem to find a way to get off the board enough. I guess the best way is to be overweight Tyler Boyd. The Chiefs especially struggle covering slot receivers, so it's kind of nice for Tyler Boyd today in multiple ways. He's also really cheap. I prefer Tyler Boyd to Brandon Ayuk for what it's worth, but not in general, just specifically today. And I do think that Eli Mitchell news is bigger than for Deebo Samuel. I think Deebo Samuel is the number 1 receiver on the slate. I think if Deebo Samuel was 7,200, I would be playing him more than I would be playing the other guys, except for Jamar Chase. I'd be playing him ahead of the Eagles guys. That's just my personal take. And I'm going to just make sure to force myself to play 15% MVS or 20, 10% Jennings, 10% Watson, Watkins. And then I'll mix in a total of 5% for Watson or Hardman and those guys. I guess Hardman probably not going to play Watson. Depending on what happens with Hardman, I guess that will determine my other cheap guy. But I think the main ones for me to get overweight on are, I do think that for some reason Devontae Smith is projecting to be more owned than AJ Brown. I'm very surprised about that. Sheets, do you have that same? You had it too in your last run. I'm sort of surprised about that. I thought it would be AJ Brown, but I will. I love both those guys. I'm just trying to find different things to do, and I keep getting back to it. I think you have to play some chalk and leave money on the table to really make sense if you're not going to play these cheapos that I mentioned. Rohde, what are you doing at wide receiver? Who are you overweight on?
Yeah, I really like your Boyd call. I mean, I was on him heavy last week and he just burnt me, but I think I'm going right back to him. I really like Devontae Smith. I think Devontae Smith's hype is really what's getting him. He's looked good late in the season. He's getting a lot of balls from Hurts. I think he's in a good spot today. But AJ Brown's still an elite receiver. There's no difference. I think both of them are probably going to be about equally owned. But I really starting to like that game a little bit with Hurts stacks like that. Deebo, I was really liking Deebo anyway this week. Before the news, I was really getting to a lot of Deebo CMC lineups in my main. And then, it's just going to help out. I do like IU because of his price tag there, but like he's going to be really chalky, I think, and he's going to get up there a little bit more on that. So I really like just kind of using all these main guys and just pivoting them out with weird constructions, like playing Boyd, Chase, and Mixon together with Mahomes, Kelsey, Tony or something. Like just really weird constructions with like not even, like 3 guys on one team, no QB type thing, and play a Hurts stack with 3 Cincy guys, so just mix them.
Idea, Rohde. That's really clever. Huh? That's clever. I like that.
Yeah, it goes with the same thing I had last week: ETN, Zay Jones, and Christian Kirk with no Trevor Lawrence. So right. I'm trying to do similar what I did last week and just trying to mass it out a little bit more than I had lineups last week a little bit, and just hope I hit the right guys and not try to dip down to these Irwin, Sky Moores, Rays, all these random guys, and just kind of go. We know Deebo's getting the ball. We know Kittle's getting the ball. Like Sheets was high on Chase. We know he's going to get the ball. His ownership's coming in massive. DK's got these guys all so priced down. I mean, you can fit them all in your lineup. Every lineup I build looks so good, and it's just like, you got to figure out how you're going to do roster construction to get different. You're going to leave money on the table. You got to have a plan today to get different somehow, because your lineups are all going to look good, I think. And that's just kind of what I'm trying to make it not so chalky is the key today. So.
Yep. Yeah. some questions, some things popping in here. Who is Eli Apple covering? I want that player in my labs. Eli Apple will probably. He's going to line up.
Dude, all Eli Apple does is win games now. I don't want to hear
He's
it.
become way better. Yeah, we're taking this off of like 2 years ago.
Yeah,
everybody was exploiting him, and now it's like we're going to act like Eli Apple sucks when his numbers are actually awesome. PFS,
they all attack him, and all I see is him jumping up and like going like this, like he just destroyed. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
no, he's been awesome. He's been
amazing.
Awesome.
He's been amazing. We went after him when he was on the Giants. You know what I mean? Like, listen, you leave the Giants. I mean, good things happen usually.
Yeah, it's right. It's right. But hey, look, the Giants are at least on the way up. Team on the way up.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a lot of takes coming in here. There's Buster, whatever. Yeah. Okay. I do think this is like so. So the question, and I want to include this question. I'm gonna adjust it. BBF asked, "What's the better fade, McCaffrey or Chase?" Now, I think you should throw Kelsey into that mix, and I think the right answer is Kelsey. And then I think the next closest answer, I would be more willing to probably fade Chase than McCaffrey because I have three other legitimate options from a receiver and another legitimate running back option. While you have options with the Niners, it's not like McCaffrey. McCaffrey's going to play a ton of snaps. This is why they got him. This is what he's there for. Yes, he'll get spelled some by these other guys, but it is. I have McCaffrey ahead of those other guys. Maybe you guys disagree. Throw it out there. Cheats.
Yeah, I mean, especially on DraftKings. I mean, McCaffrey's a tough fade. You know, I don't know.
Gonna need points to win. Last time I
mean, it's just a tough fade. It's always not always, but you know, fading a receiver is usually a little bit more palatable to me than fading like a running back, especially with the other running back out, you know, with the PPR, you know, especially a guy like that who's basically game script proof, you know, it's I would be more inclined to play McCaffrey than Chase, if that answers the question.
I like that. That does. That's a great answer. How about you, Rohde?
Yeah, I mean, McCaffrey, like, I really like him today. I mean, he's a tough fade for me. He's almost a lock today for me, really. You know, I think getting him, I think he's just going to be right today for everyone in your lineup. So I'm not trying to get too cute.
You know what you could do, by the way? Okay, so this is what you could do if you wanted to do whatever. I think that Pirine is going to, you know, maybe you play Pirine on like FanDuel or something like that, you know, where not nobody, but people like, listen, for a guy like Pirine, they'd be more inclined to play him on DraftKings, right? Because you get to the third down work and all this stuff. Maybe you get it different enough by playing him on FanDuel or something like that. I don't know. I also don't mind a lot of these double running back comparings. You know, I don't think that. Listen, I'll put it another way. I don't think that the running backs are going to score that many points in general. So even if I get like a weird lineup with like, I don't know, with like Gainwell and Sanders somehow, I don't know, maybe you can get away with that if it accesses you some receivers. I don't know. It's a 2-game slate. Your lineups have to look kind of shitty. You know, that's the. But now with that said, okay, so I keep forgetting to mention this. Remember, this is 2 island games, right? It's a 3:00 and a 6:30. Or close enough to an island game. I hope it doesn't go over. Right? So take a look, see at what's going on at 3:00. And then one of the things I'm going to do, by the way, I have a plan. Everybody's got a plan of that. The NBA and the NHL, they have slates a little later on today, like 5-6 o'clock. What I want to do is I want to time it so I do like hopefully like kind of like a live NFL update at the same time. Maybe I do like a quick NBA thing. Not that the NBA is an important slate or all, but you know how I always win these, right? The 3-game NBA slate that nobody uses football day, right? So I'm going to play it. As long as I'm going to play it, it might fit in right at that time where it's like getting near the end of the first game where we can start talking about maybe possible late swap stuff. So I'll just keep pinging people. Listen, I'm going to go on to do that. So. Yeah, I guess that was my comment. Is to take a look at late swap stuff based on how you're doing in these other tournaments. Yeah,
that makes sense. I was going to ask you guys before. You know, we have more things. A couple other things I want to touch on before we get out of here. Like, how are we dealing? We talked about double tight end builds. I do like the double tight end builds. I also like the 3 running back builds because I think they'll be lower owned, but I don't think no one's doing it, which I just told Triple J in chat. I don't think no one's doing it, but I do like those builds a little bit. I like the idea of playing, I think for upside, Kelsey and Kittle obviously feels really good. And by the way, I think Kittle ends up sort of the odd man out in this group. I think he ends up a little bit lower owned than these other guys are. It's just sort of the way the pricing works when you try to build your lineups by hand, at least. It's harder. You kind of have to want to get him in there. And so I think I'd try to include Kittle in in most of my double tight end looks outside of the double Chiefs tight ends thing. The only thing that scares me about the Chiefs tight ends, watch this. I'll play Kelsey and what's his name? The other one, Noah Gray. And then, of course, Jordy Fortson or Blake Elfish, two tight ends, two touchdowns. It's really hard with the Chiefs, man. They throw 15 different receivers at you, and you don't really know. So I guess what I was leading to though is that Rohde, what you were saying is what I love the idea of doing that usually with running quarterbacks, like a guy like Jalen Hurts, you'd play with a skinny stack, maybe just one wide receiver, and then take three from the other side or something, like 3 or 4 players from the other side. I think that's actually a really good thing to do with Mahomes today. There's just so many guys that can get there that don't need. None of them need to get there except for probably one, and he could still have a monster game. So maybe you could play him, play a Mahomes and even use Kelsey, whatever, but then play all 3 receivers from Cincinnati or something like that with P. Ryan. You know what I mean? Or something unusual like that. I just think there's a lot you can get from line of construction. And Rohde, you've done a really good job with this. So I just wanted you to have a couple minutes to talk just about a little bit more about the line of constructions, how many double tight end sets, 3 running backs. You mentioned the thing about the quarterback earlier that I loved. But talk a little bit about how you're going to construct your lineups today.
Yeah, I definitely like the 3 running back. I do have some of that. I even have double running back like McKinnon and Pacheco. I do have some naked Mahomes actually because he does spread the ball around like you just said. I was doing him and Hurts are my naked quarterbacks today with guy like Mixon, Chase, Boyd coming back, or Higgins, Boyd, Mixon on the other side coming back. So just those people aren't rostering that. When people build lineups, they're like, okay, I grab Mahomes. I got to get Tony or MVS in my lineup. I got to grab Juju in this one and Kelsey. They're not like, oh, let's grab Mahomes. He might throw it to all these guys, and everyone might have 15 points, but then Devontae Smith has 30, and Tyler Boyd has 25 at his price, and then Debo runs a touchdown in and catches 7 balls, and he's got 30, and you got all these guys that got more points than his receivers that only got 10 to 15, but Mahomes has 37.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So Mahomes is getting all the points in the yardage prop, but he's throwing it to Kelsey with 80. Juju's got 57. Tony catches a couple sidelines for 46, and MVS catches a bomb for 75. None of those guys are going to win you a game, but Mahomes has got 37, and that's what will win you the game. So that's kind of what I'm doing today, and hopefully we have a Millie shipper. So
I have a couple of other comments. First of all, is we mentioned a couple of times, but keep an eye out for McCole Hardman news and all that stuff. I actually believe that if Hardman is active and playing, I think that he's a very good play.
I agree with you. My plan is
I have Hardman in a few already, so I agree.
Yeah. The other thing is that if you are playing Showdown, Tevin Coleman is 200.
Yeah, that's where I would use the San Francisco running backs as this Showdown slate.
Yeah, that's the other thing I wanted to mention.
Okay.
And any particular aside from wherever fits your lineups, I mean, and listen, if you're playing 2 lineups or 3 lineups, do you have a favorite defense, either of you, or not really?
I do. So I guess it depends on which. I mean, it obviously depends. I think you totally can take your defense against your quarterback. I just think it's a good run back, a good way of looking at it, because the defense can get there. If not only because of a touchdown or whatever, but just turnovers or whatever, but it doesn't really affect your quarterback that much. I do like the Eagles are the best defense, I think, by a long shot. I don't think it's even close because their upside is they could put up 25 fantasy points. You still have a rookie 7th rounder against a really talented defense on the road in Philly. I mean, it's just worth. So I think Philly is significantly above everybody else. If I had to pick my next favorite one, it would be the Chiefs.
I actually believe that probably the Bengals are probably the best. I don't know. Actually, I shouldn't say that. Yeah, the Eagles have to be considered the best, but as much as I said about Mahomes, I mean, he is not, not 100%. And there is some. Listen, not to Eric Johnson's point. I will say this. I think there is, a better than 1% chance that Mahomes does not finish this game.
Right. You still don't want to play Henry, but yeah.
Right. But if God forbid that happens, then all of a sudden the Bengals defense is gonna look pretty good. But like I said, I'm like, listen, in MME, I'm just gonna have probably 25%. I mean, whatever. It doesn't really make a difference as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to do that, I would say I think San Francisco is actually being over projected. I don't think anybody's playing San Francisco's defense. I actually think like they're going to be. I actually think it's really weird to get a 10% on defense, but they might be like 10% on this slate.
Hey, here's another thing that we don't really talk about. So I know that again, I do follow like other parts of the Discord sometimes, and I see that you've been that Rohde, you've been doing some like betting and some props and stuff like that. Do you like anything like that for today?
Oh yeah, I got a ton of different props in today. I've been killing the betting lately. So I've been all in on these tight ends. So I got a lot of first tight end score. I even got Noah Gray to score on tight end prop. So
Rohde, keep looking at the basketball, man. I'm on fire with that stuff. I didn't get it yet. I didn't get it Friday as much, but I've been on fire.
Okay, good. I didn't play Friday, but whatever day you put the 4 out there, I parlayed them all together for
beautiful
$400-500.
I saw something about that. So wait. So you put up like 4 of your picks, Bobby, and
using better
parlayed them.
Yeah, and Brody parlayed them, and I'm using my better takes picks, and only one was like everything else was a regular bet, and then one was a minus 390 or whatever, or something like that. But everything else was a normal bet. But yeah, I mean, there's a guy, by the way, who put a free bet for a $5 thing. It's like a $5 free bet they give you from FanDuel. He had 15 bets, and the worst odds of any of them was minus 120. So everything was like the massive favorites, but he's only got to win. He needs Philly to win outright, and he needs KC to win outright, and he wins $180,000 a $5 bet.
Wow! So he's been parlaying stuff the whole time through.
What's that?
He's got like a bunch of different ones through the whole playoffs. Then parlay.
Yeah, well, no, he's got it through. He did it through. He did college basketball, college pro basketball for this week.
So just this weekend only, he's been killing.
Yeah, so 18 bets.
18 bets, $5.
It's 16 in a row. I was like, oh my God.
Wow.
Even if you're a 10-1 favorite, that's ridiculous. It should never happen. All right. I don't have a whole lot else to go through, but I just do have to get to my lineups sheets. Do you have anything else before we get out of here?
No, just when you stop the live stream, I'm just hanging there for a sec.
Okay. Yep. Rohde, I'm gonna let you take us out. If you have any thoughts, throw them in there, but do your thing.
No, I gave a lot of good thoughts today, guys, and let's get one in the top 10 of the Millie Maker today, and let's take it down. All right, as always, let's get it.
All right.